There's 5 months in 2017 where I can't remember anything, really. I couldn't take care of myself in ways of feeding. I couldn't feed myself. I couldn't sleep. There was times I didn't know where I was or how I got there, and it's basically 5 months of hell. Welcome back to the channel. Reviewing this video. You're seeing all this for the first time. I have a video back previously that'll explain this. So basically, I wear this to hide my face from basically my employer, my senior management, who may not like the certain things to talk about or bring to light. I do work for the government, and there are sensitive areas they'd like to talk about. I don't like to bring up the light, but I'll probably explain that later. But continuing that, this video is basically about Bell Talk, Mental Health Awareness Day. And I thought I'd make a video kind of showcasing PTSD and how, it affected me and other people. So basically, people might want to know what PTSD is. I know when I got diagnosed, a lot of my family members didn't know what it was other than Googling it, but we'll just get right to that. So what is PTSD? PTSD is post-traumatic stress disorder. Involves exposure to trauma involving death or the threat of death, serious injury, or sexual violence. Something is traumatic when it's very frightening, overwhelming, and causes a lot of distress. Trauma is often unexpected, and many people say that they felt powerless to stop or change the event. Traumatic events may include crimes, natural disasters, accidents, war or conflict, or other threats of life. It could be an event or in a situation that you experience yourself, or something that happens to others involving loved ones. Symptoms of PTSD. When somebody's experienced it, you might see but they have this feeling of like they're back against the wall, like being on guard. Flashbacks can come through nightmares. There are triggers. Again, sleep disturbances. Those are the nightmares and the terrors. Difficulty concentrating. So they can't really focus on. It's almost like somebody with ADHD, but like it's mostly like a zoning out, like a tunnel vision kind of feeling. You might see somebody just do that 1,000-yard stare. I know for myself, you just lose focus and concentration on somebody speaking. The flight or fight mode. Always feeling on guard, always like feeling like you're going to fight. Usually happens with a lot of people, like veterans, law enforcement, stuff like that, where you usually feel tense and like they gotta fight or flight, like leave the area, or they're feeling like they have to fight. That's another trigger. Anger outbursts. This is huge. Somebody with PTSD will have anger outbursts, and they can go from 0 to 100 real fast. Not anger outbursts. This is one of the symptoms you will see. Someone can go from 0 to 100 real fast. You could have somebody who's not really angry all their life, and as soon as that event happens, that incident, you see like their behavior change, where now like anything can irritate them. They just hate it. They vocalize it. They're not directing it towards you. They're just directing it towards the whole situation. And that goes for the next step, like irritability, aggressive behavior. You might see someone who's aggressive now, who's like very, very like, I gotta hit something, I gotta do this, I gotta punch something, I gotta go now, I just want to get out of here. And they're like yelling, they're raising their voice, all that stuff. Emotional numbness. When I went through it, I had it right at the beginning and the odd time after that, and that's just like you have just what it says. You feel no emotion, like you feel kind of dead inside, like you can't react to anything with an emotion. You're just plain faced. Avoidance. This is one that you will see, is that somebody might feel safe where they are at home, and somebody with PTSD, you want to try to get out. and do almost like their normal life back when the incident didn't happen, but a lot of times they avoid certain areas, certain things that they don't feel comfortable. It took me a while to get out of my place to actually go do stuff where I felt comfortable. I knew I had to go to appointments and certain things, and I tried, but there was a lot of times where like I had to stay home. Like I just like I'm not going out, and that's what the other symptoms are too. Self-destructive behavior. So this would be like your substance abuses, like drugs, booze. That's a lot. I didn't do that, but it was one thing that they had to make sure how, like, if I drank, if I did drugs. And then reckless driving, I do that. Not as much as I did before, but yeah, like road rage. That comes with everything else, like irritability, all that stuff. What somebody is feeling when they have PTSD, they feel very negative about themselves. They feel like they're broken. You'll always hear that, like they're not how like they used to be, and they picture themselves like how they used to be. They don't realize like it's a life change. Like you could still be who you want to be, but there's like certain changes that goes away. Like for me, I think most of the time I'll wake up and I'll feel broken, and then I just realize, oh, you know, it's just a life change. Lack of interest in activities. So like I used to go out to the movies, dinner, the gym, just normal stuff, going out. I think for the first year it was like hit and miss. There was times like I didn't want to go to the family dinners with the fiance, my family stuff. Going to the movies was hard. Just going into public places, anything normal, I wouldn't want to do. And it ended up her driving most of the time of 2017, and halfway through 2018, I would let my fiance drive just because of everything else. So lack of interest, I didn't want to do it. She would drag me out, which was good. Like, you want that. Memory problems. For myself, I was diagnosed with dissociation as well as PTSD. And I do have memory problems, like, I call them time gaps. I think that, like, when I explain to the doctors, they understand what I mean. But, like, when you're overwhelmed emotionally, the dissociation will kick in, and they will have time gaps. You remember when, like, somebody says, like, I had a black rage where I can't remember everything? That's what it is, like, but it's not just anger, it's just emotionally overwhelmed. So I could stress out of a small thing and just build on that, and then you will have memory loss. And it sucks because, like, say a police shooting and you have an officer that shot somebody and it really hit them, he will or she will lose memory of the incident, but remember only certain parts of it, and that's the memory problems. Feeling hopeless for the future. So again, feeling broken, you'll have that sight of, like, there's not going to be a future. You sit back, you think about, like, oh, like, if you're young, like in your 20s or 30s, and you're like, where do I go from here? Like, I'm fucked. And feeling hopelessness for the future. Yeah. Triggers. Triggers is key. Most people will find their own triggers later on. Like, I know most of my triggers, but a lot of people with PTSD who just have it won't know their triggers they're going through, and they're like, it's stuff that you can see. Like, I'll just go down the list here. It's you know, thoughts and emotions. So, like, how you felt during that incident, it'll relate. So if you were, say your adrenaline's going and you're pumped, like your adrenaline's going, your blood's pumping, and you have that, like, I'm going to a code, I'm going to a call, and you have that same feeling out in the public where, like, you know, somebody's yelling and you're like, you're a cop and you're used to, like, dealing with people who are just crap. You'd feel that and you have that trigger, and that trigger just brings you back, like, oh, like, I remember when I had dealt with the guy. I remember when, like, I had to pull up my sidearm. I had to do something that caused that. You'd feel that, and that would trigger it. So things like objects. I know a few of my coworkers who are off, they mentioned, like, a hard surface. It's because they performed CPR on the individual, and when they were doing CPR, they remembered the hard ground. So any hard surfaces, like a table, could trigger the overwhelming sensation of like the dissociation, the tunnel vision, the panic attacks, the anxiety and stuff like that. Smell, sense, anything strong that tied to that memories. For me, I didn't have one. Some people might have like burning flesh if you're a firefighter, or if you're in ER, there's certain smells of like say blood or something like that could trigger it. We did have a riot a number of years ago, and I remember some of the old officers, like the jail guards, mentioned that during the riot they didn't really have shift rotation. They're basically working a lot of overtime to just resolve the situation. So to be fed, to feed these guys, you had to order pizza because it's cheap and it's fast. So some of these guys would, if they smelled pizza, would trigger the flashbacks, the memories of it, of that traumatic incident where there was a riot and they couldn't help their coworkers. Sounds. This one hits home for me. An example of sounds would be like an intercom at Walmart, and say the cashier or somebody working there didn't know how to use it, and it goes off and it just sounds muffled. To me, that sounds like a code call when like an officer's in danger or something like that, where like all of a sudden my adrenaline's going. Like an example would be me shopping with the fiance at Walmart. It goes off. There's been times where like I'm zoning out and I feel like we gotta fight, but I'm not there, and I'm thinking later on, like, where the hell was I supposed to go in Walmart? This isn't a prison. Where was I gonna go? Aisle 10? Like, taste. So, like, alcohol or certain beverages, and that, like, ties up with, like, almost like things and objects and sense, like, what you were doing at the time. Say, like, you were having alcohol, you were having a coffee, a certain kind of coffee from Starbucks, and that certain taste during that thing, you still have that in your mouth, would trigger that. Situations, so being stuck in the elevator, or you know, can make it feel like you're in a trapped car just because how enclosed it is. You know, just certain areas, certain places. Like if you work downtown where the incident happened, you couldn't go downtown. Like it just starts triggering these flashbacks. Certain things, just everything lines up. And then, like, one of the triggers will go. When a trigger occurs. So if someone goes through a trigger, they can experience an anxiety or panic attack, which will quickly escalate into other symptoms, such as tunnel vision, memory loss or gaps, the ability to focus or concentrate, avoidance, feeling the need to flee. At times, they can stand still, staring at nothing while gripping tightly on something, or gripping a body part, such as a hand, onto a chair, or tapping their foot along a desk. This can last for a short period of time or a long duration, depending if coping techniques are in play. You're gonna see a lot of things if you're dealing with somebody with PTSD. Somebody who's experienced PTSD, it's a little hard to explain it until they understand what they're going through. But like for seeing it, you can instantly see it. It's that 1,000-yard stare. You could tell that they're anxious. They need to get out of there. They're deciding what to do, and then, you know, the memory gap goes, and they start like they're too overwhelmed, too involved in the now that they can't cope into getting back to normal, and that develops coping techniques with doctors who show you how to ground yourself back into to the situation so you can focus. So when to seek help. If someone you know or yourself are thinking of thoughts of self-harm or suicide, or you have this overwhelming feeling like you just need this feeling to stop, that's when you contact 911 and just seek help. They have tons of resources for 911, for thoughts of suicide, all that stuff. It's 2019, and they're just figuring out that anybody can have PTSD from a trauma event, and that how it affects you, you know, suicide, right? A lot of self-harm. And communication helps. It makes somebody who's feeling alone not alone. I know for me, a lot of times I do feel alone, even though I'm not alone. It's just the situation they are in. It's just monitor it. They're always going to feel down. They're going to feel broken. They're going to feel that. It's when they start telling you self-harming. Like if you see self-harming scars that you've never seen before, if they tell you like, hey, something feels really wrong, I think I need help, talk it through. Like everybody who has or went through some sort of PTSD has been there, and they understand it. So from my experiences, talk. If you have source of support, just let them know. Talk with them. They're good help. You know, no one's ever alone. There's always a peer support program for people who suffer from PTSD. I know here for Canada, the hospitals have trained professionals to deal with it. So that's what PTSD is. I hope this is insightful. I kind of want to make more videos